So you have just finished books 1 and 2 of the Odyssey, and books 1, 2, 3, and 4 are known as the Telemachy because they focus solely on Odysseus' son Telemachus. So to get you from book 2 into book 5, I've just got this summary for you so you know what Telemachus is up to in books 3 and 4. Now, book 2 ended with Athena in the form of Mentor traveling with Telemachus in order to go to Pylos, which is the home of King Nestor. When he arrives there, he sees Nestor's people and a group of 4,500 sacrificing bulls to Poseidon. And this is a pretty significant scene here because it allows him to see true honor to the gods. It allows for the readers to kind of get a little bit of a cultural appreciation for how the Greeks viewed and revered the gods at the time. When he first gets there, he feels a little bit insecure about himself, but yet again, Athena is there to bolster his confidence and to make him sure of himself, and he becomes more and more assertive as these 4 books progress. So he gets in there and introduces himself to Nestor. Nestor is impressed with him and knows him as Odysseus' son. And he asks Nestor for news about Odysseus. Nestor speaks very, very highly of Odysseus, what a great warrior he is, but most specifically of how cunning and smart he is in battle. And he comments on how alike the father and son are. This is a really good parallel to Telemachus' comments in Book 1 of the Odyssey when Athena as Mentes said, like, oh, you must be Odysseus' son. And he essentially says, well, my mom tells me I'm his son, but I don't know because I've never met him. So this helps reaffirm this kind of like father, like son mentality that Telemachus doesn't know because he doesn't know his dad. King Nestor tells Telemachus how the gods made everybody's journey home incredibly difficult. Specifically, he says how Athena started a fight between Menelaus and Agamemnon. They argued over when they should leave, and Agamemnon wanted to stay a day later at Troy and continue doing sacrifices, whereas Menelaus wanted to leave. The last Nestor had heard, Odysseus had stayed behind with Agamemnon. Nestor and his soldiers left with Menelaus. And then this goes back again to Agamemnon. Remember the story that we've told over and over and over again. You have to know this story. He returns home to find his wife, Clytemnestra, has taken a lover. It's his cousin Aegisthus. And yes, mispronouncing stuff is my thing. He is murdered. Clytemnestra is mad that their daughter was sacrificed before he left for Troy in order to have favorable winds. Later on, Agamemnon's son Orestes and his daughter Electra help to eventually avenge him. Remember, this story is brought up over and over again because it is a very darker parallel to Odysseus' fate. We have one warrior from Troy who came home to have his wife murder him, and now we have another warrior coming home, and we don't know what his wife is up to. Well, we do. None of the characters in the epic know, but we do. Telemachus learns more and more about social custom and how life should be in his travels to Nestor. He has a firm grasp of Zenia and honoring the gods and respect to kings and warriors. But he sees in these interactions of what life should be as compared to the suitors in his house, eating him out of house and home, trying to force Penelope to marry one of them. And Nestor even warns him about staying away for far too long, kind of keeping this idea of Agamemnon in his head, like, oh, if you're away too long, bad things can happen. So he sends him off to Sparta, gives him lots of gifts, gives him a chariot, and also his oldest son. He said, take my oldest son, Pastradatus, I can't say his name, says, take my oldest son with you for company. And Athena reveals herself in the form of an eagle as like a type of blessing on Nestor and everyone there. And Nestor is so like, oh my god, a goddess has been with us, and orders for more sacrifices to be done. Book 4, The King and Queen of Sparta, is about visiting Menelaus and Helen in Sparta. At this, as I told you, after the events of Troy, she goes back to her original husband in Sparta. And in this scene, she's even, how do I say, regretting what what she did. It's a little bit of a sympathetic portrayal, I think, even though in most other stories outside of the Odyssey, she's portrayed as leaving willingly with Paris, but in this, like, she even makes a comment about, like, oh, how dare I have done such a silly thing. So when Telemachus gets there, he's received very warmly in the palace. A double wedding has taken place. Their son and daughter have married, and not each other, like two separate weddings. And so there's in the middle of this huge wedding feast, and they welcome him warmly. And Telemachus is recognized by Helen not because she knows who Telemachus is, but she looks at him and says, "Oh my gosh, that has to be the son of Odysseus." And again, this helps reaffirm for Telemachus that you are your father's son. You have a rightful place in Ithaca, and you are doing the right thing by fighting essentially to find out what happened to your dad. Helen and Menelaus tell stories of Odysseus's gift for disguise and his gift for cunning. This is beep beep beep. This is foreshadowing. Beep beep beep. They tell a story about how Odysseus disguised himself as a beggar and snuck into Troy to do a little bit of reconnaissance. And they also tell the story of the Trojan horse, how that was his idea to bring in the Trojan horse. And even there's a cute little story about how Helen knocked on the Trojan horse doing impressions of the Greeks' wives back home, trying to get them to yell out, and they didn't yell out, and yada yada yada. So Menelaus actually shares what happened to him after leaving Troy, and he said that he was stuck in Egypt, and in order for him to get home, he meets a little sea nymph who says, if you catch my dad Proteus, he will tell you how to get home. But the thing is you have to capture Proteus, and Proteus is known as a shapeshifter, and once he is caught, then he will answer any questions you have. So he does succeed in catching Proteus, and he orders Proteus to tell him what happened to all the other Greeks, and he finds out that Ajax, the strongest man in Greece, is dead. He finds out that Agamemnon is dead at the hands of Clytemnestra, and he finds out that Odysseus is captured on Calypso's island. And he is then told that he's only getting home in one piece because the gods favor him as Helen's husband. So that's the most news that he's received, that his father was last known to be alive on Calypso's island. So then Pistratus, I can't say his name, Nestor's son, and Telemachus then head back to Pylos in order to then return to Ithaca. Before book 4 ends, we have a bit of a scene change back to the suitors in Ithaca who have realized that Telemachus left. They're shocked that he did it, but they're also slightly impressed that, like, oh, look, this kid's starting to put on his big boy pants. But they come up with a plan to wait in the harbor of Ithaca in order to murder him. Medon the Crier learns this little plot, and he tells Penelope where her son has gone and what the suitors' plans are, and she is just completely distraught by this because she's already lost her husband, she thinks, and now she thinks she may lose her son. So Athena sends her calming dreams. She takes the shape of her sister and comes to her in her dreams and tells her that everything will be okay. This book helps us again portray the despicable actions of the suitors, like you needed another reason to not like the suitors, but it also helps make Penelope even more sympathetic. That great parallel to the reputation of Clytemnestra as the calculating, cold-hearted, murdering wife waiting at home. Here we have Penelope again in her tears with her only son waiting for her husband to come home. But it also helps tie up all the action from the war in Troy and the events of the Iliad, bringing back letting us know what happened to Agamemnon, letting us know what happened to Ajax and Achilles and all those people. That kind of gives us hints that Homer was tagging on to already known stories and putting them into his own epic here as a bit of a source of validity, tying them all together as part of a larger cultural narrative. So our next book will take us to Odysseus on Calypso's island, finally getting to see our hero in the flesh and see how he's holding up there. So enjoy book 5.